I'm here to stay on my soapbox and proclaim that to the world.
On this show.
This is the hottest show on the planet right now.
What's the debate?
Ain't no debate.
Yes. Welcome to the Vulcan Soapbox. Welcome to the Vulcan Soapbox, where we celebrate the power of diverse ideas, diverse perspectives. You know, that's the drive for innovation, understanding. We also explore the application, what I call the application of epistemology, the system way of thinking. This is how we validate our knowledge. How do you know what you know, according to the famous philosopher? I am your host, third member of this Woken Squad, host Enos, and I'm gonna introduce my guys. Fresh, what's going on, man?
You already know what it is. We cooking in the kitchen. Don't put your pots up. In the heat of the gym, I'm just here to get my shots up. All right, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. And we got my guy Vulcan. What's going on, man? We're back. Still doing this, man.
What's up, all the people out there? Thanks for tuning in. We got a good show. We're gonna break some things down. We're gonna have some fun. Let's get to it.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun, man.
I like
Speaking of shots, segue into since Fresh is talking about basketball. I don't know. You see, Shaq. You know, Shaq been trending online. He's been saying a lot of stuff about today's league. I'm gonna get back into it. Play this bit. Say again.
Soft. Don't no man call me soft.
Okay.
I spell it.
SOF capital T.
Let's see what Shaq talking about, man. The legend.
Big Diesel lost his damn mind. He slams the NBA as a, quote, product. And then he doubles down. Listen to this.
A lot of these can't play, and they know it. In any era, they can't play. Just saying. Pick and roll, one-on-one. I fucking can't play, dog. Joker can play. Giannis can play. Dame, a couple of these guys can play, but a lot of these can't play. And Simmons, that motherfucker need to be arrested. $250 million for that. Get the fuck out of my face. Robbing people, man.
Now, wait a second here. Oh, all right, I get you, but his fat ass did play when he couldn't even walk up and down the court, and all he did was put a uniform on with a belly the size of mine. Well, actually 5 times mine because he's bigger than me. So I get it. Us old heads, we think it's better when we played. It's better. We were tougher. You had to be meaner. Oh, stop. I get tired of Shaq's act. Everybody's stupid. Everybody's soft, but Shaq. Okay, Shaq. I remember when your fat ass was sitting on the end of a bench with the freaking Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics taking up space, chasing another ring. It is getting a little tiresome, these old heads going back at each other. The Big Diesel lost his.
Yo. What up? All right, Fresh is off, man. Talk to me. What's your thoughts, man? Share your thoughts on that, Vulcan.
Well, I think the guy made some pretty good points. Well, before we get into the topic specifically, I just want to speak to Shaq. I've always been a big Shaq fan as far as his public persona. I think he does a really good job of giving back to the community on so many different kind of ways, from the stuff he does, like going to random stores and buying, random stuff for people, to getting people's cars and families that are in need. I think that he is a great ambassador for the sport of basketball, just being an athlete in general. So he's the way he's branded himself and marketed himself. I ran into him a few times out here, and he's a real good guy. Kind of,
Life flex.
Yeah. He's a real good dude. As far as what his public persona goes. So I can say that, especially after the basketball stuff is over with. So I just want to start off by saying that I'm a big fan. I think I've been asked before if I could pick any type of millionaire, billionaire personality to hang out with for a little while. I pick Shaq just because I think he does a really good job giving back, and I think he'd have some great stories. So big fan of him in that way.
He ain't gonna tell you none of them stories, not the good ones. You gotta mark.
Yeah. Well, you
Oh
got to
yeah,
remember, like he went to high
you had to
school.
start
He
off
went
with
to
that.
high
Go ahead.
school, in our backyard. So
In
you
the
got to,
city.
yeah. So you already know, like, and I heard stories. I got stories to ask him about. I heard boys was testing his gangsta at that time too.
Nobody was testing. No one was testing 7 foot Shaq's gangster insanity.
Well, they said he was a goofball at that time. He was a young guy that they let play on the court because they saw some talent in him. But he was like, he couldn't even dunk at that time yet. He was, that tight and still couldn't dunk yet.
Cap.
Cap.
No,
He
I
didn't
think
like to dunk. He wasn't dunking like that. First of all, I don't care what nobody in San Antonio says. I'm gonna let Shaq play because they saw potential. They saw him be 7 feet tall. Yes, please come play on this basketball court. If anyone out here can play basketball on this court, it's the 7 foot tall nigga.
And what age was that? Because his freshman year at LSU, he was hooping. So what age was he wasn't as good? Was it high school? When they
Middle
talking
school when he
elementary?
was only 6'10". Stop it.
Come
So I just want
on,
to make sure I'm
man.
understanding y'all correctly. Y'all thinking that he was always a stud?
No. He was just big.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay, so we're on the same page. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah, but
saying
I think he was
at what
dunking. Now his footwork and all that, I think that came later on. But as far as him being dominant, I'm not buying it, man.
Listen, I'm from the city, okay? Now, while the city has always had its violent pockets, when Shaq was coming up, it was the 90s. They was out there with these. Nobody's looking at 7 foot Shaq and thinking, I'm finna tell him he can't play basketball on this court.
Okay, but if y'all had to guess, what would y'all think he started dunking?
6th grade.
Yeah, middle school.
Y'all, he didn't start dunking until he was almost graduated.
He didn't start dunking like he wanted to, like Shaq, like the Shaq we know. You telling me he never jumped high enough to dunk the ball? He never tried. He never was
He
able
didn't
to.
start dunking until his junior year.
Bro, I dunked in sixth grade. I was only 6 foot tall.
Yeah, with a dodgeball. Tell the
That,
truth, Fresh. It was with a dodgeball.
Hey, don't try to play me, man. My hands always been big enough to palm a basketball. All right.
so
Plus,
my
and
point
that
is
was
saying
2 hands because I'm bouncy like that. Don't come for me, young
He
man.
said 2 hands.
All right.
so y'all got to think. Shaq was, he hadn't caught up to his height yet. He was still trying. He wasn't dominant Shaq. He wasn't trying to dunk people in the rim yet. His
Yeah,
stepdad had to
that
work
makes
with him
sense.
on that stuff. He's playing on a base high school, and he's a relative no name at that time. He just was
No,
big.
but you said when did he dunk? Are
His
you
junior
to
year.
specify when did he first dunk ever, or when did he start dunking like the most dominant player in the like Diesel?
He started
I
when he started being able to throw the ball in the rim was his junior year. That's what I'm
throw
saying.
it in the rim.
So you got to think dunk, yes. So you got to think if he's out there in them Satan streets hooping, he's a goofball. He's clumsy. He
I
he
get the
can't he,
clumsy. I get
he
that.
can't shoot. He can't shoot at all. He couldn't shoot even when he was in the NBA. So he can't shoot.
I get
He's
that.
a big clumsy guy at that time. He's not
But
ready to
not.
be dunking on nobody like that yet, or even dunking. Period. So he didn't start dunking until his junior year.
That's hard to
So
believe, man. I get the
Wait,
shooting.
yeah.
I get it because the
hey,
people that's
let's
usually
get let's
that's
get let's get
always
Diesel on the
tall.
pod and let's ask him.
Yeah, man. Get somebody to
Send
say.
him an email, a smoke signal. You never dunked once. The first time you ever dunked was your junior year.
I tell you this because that's even a big debate too. Just because somebody dunked one time doesn't mean that people will consider that person dunking. That's debatable. Some people might. Some people might not.
No,
Somebody like,
if you can dunk, can the ability to dunk, can you do it? You only need to prove it once.
well, again, but there's some nuance to that. There's people who have only could dunk when they throw themselves an alley, right? We
That's
grew up
still
around people like that. Well, again, but I'm saying not everybody considered them to be able to dunk, though. I'm not saying whether or not you consider them or dare, or I'm just saying like people don't consider somebody to throw themselves an alley and then put the ball in the rim as a dunker all the
Yeah,
time.
I didn't think that at the time. I was one of those guys when they was basically just tipping it in.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying just on this panel right now, we got a little bit of a difference on how we would define dunking.
Yeah, but Enos, you were a hater back then.
He's a hater now. He's a hater now still. But yeah,
Listen,
so if people were to see Shaq playing with the rim and the ball, I don't know if they would consider that dunking at that height, especially. Like, man, you supposed to be doing this. But I'm just telling you, according to the research I have available to me, he ain't started dunking until he was in high school. in like the latter part of his high school playing years. So,
I find it hard.
but and the fact that y'all find it hard to believe is proof that it was it wasn't a good thing that he was in that situation, especially at his height. He figured it out. Patrick, you and a lot of guys were late bloomers when it came to hooping.
Yeah,
But
I get that when you're tall, you are not you are more. I mean, you see that they are clumsy. A lot of times, people that's better with their footwork are people that were short majority of their life, and then they got taller when they got older. But if you was big,
where
your whole
everybody gets
life,
taller when they get older, but yeah, well, I see
yeah, I
what
mean
you're saying
older
though.
like later in their teens.
Yeah, like
Anthony
Scottie Pippen,
Davis,
Charles Barkley, all those guys,
Dennis
they
Rodman.
were already good ball handlers. Some of them played point guard before they even grew to be 6'4", 6'5", all the way to 6'8", and so that's why they were such good players, because they had guard skills at a small forward shooting guard height.
What do you think about with the? I don't know who was the name of that guy who said that Shaq lost his mind by saying the league is just trash and not playing.
So what's the name of that guy?
Yeah, I forgot the name of this guy. I'm actually what you think about what
Oh,
he said about Shaq.
I didn't know you knew the name of that guy. Where is he from? You know him from somewhere?
Yeah, he's from your town.
For real?
Joking, man.
Oh, but say,
No.
I don't know.
just call it
I never knew
guys.
that. I never knew what that guy's name was.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah,
going to what he
famous
said about
comedian or
Shaq,
something, a sports
I didn't like the Shaq take about him being the fat guy on the end of the bench, because that was much later in Shaq's
He was
career.
old.
Yeah, he's obviously not talking about no-name folks who can't play. He's talking about the guys. And even if he's not talking about the guys, he's talking about players who are in their prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't like that point that he made about Shaq, being, 4 or 5 times the size, whatever was at the end of the bench in Cleveland or whatever. It's like that was well past his prime. At that was like his farewell tour almost, in a sense. So,
well, if you don't use that angle, he has no leg to stand on. So obviously, he got to say what he got to say. But
I mean, how long do these big guys even last in the league? These 7-footers even last in the league to begin with? Sean,
I mean, they start going out immediately.
Exactly. You got Sean Bradley, George Mirasan. You got Yao Ming, Dikembe Mutombo. He probably played a pretty good career, but he stayed in pretty good. He never got too big, Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah, he was awesome, and so they built different.
Yeah, Hakeem. Yeah. A lot of these guys, they weren't. I don't think none of these guys played 20 years in the league.
Nope, not even.
Yeah. I mean, even power forwards, struggle in some respect in that way. So I don't think that's a good point. I think Shaq got as much. I don't know how many years he was in the league, but I'm sure he got 10 to 15 out of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's about as much as you'd expect him to do.
And he was dominant. So it's weird to see. It's very hard to refute Shaquille O'Neal's opinion on who can play and who can't, because in his prime, he was one of the best, and because his prime was so good, he's still considered like at least top 15 player of all time.
Yeah, because when he was in the league, there was nobody better than him.
Yeah, dominant.
When he was sorry. Yeah, with his yes, especially his Laker run he had, nobody was better than him. Allen Iverson said it like this. He goes, they asked Iverson who's the best player in the league. He says, I'm gonna say Shaq, and let's just stop right there.
You said when he was in the league. He was in the league a long time.
Yeah, but especially his LA run.
Days.
Yes, I said especially his LA run.
But when they did the top 5 scorers that was averaging the 30 points a game, the playoffs and the regular season, SGA just joined that list. Shaq is on there too. You have to think about this. He was scoring those points in the paint, and he didn't have a highest percentage of free throw. A lot of those points, of course, he's the center. That's not
yeah, I'll take more dominant, better. I don't know about better.
We're
talking about skill set.
Well, so again, let's all define better. Let's all define our betters real quick. Let's all define our betters. I don't mind going first. So y'all want to go first? Who wants to go first? Okay, I'll go first then. I got quiet. So yeah, for me, better is putting that ball in the hole.
Pause. I don't like that. You rephrase it.
Who does that the best? Is that who does that at a higher percentage, more the most efficiently? That's how I'm defining the best. Now, there's a defensive side of it, but I'm gonna go ahead and suspend that part of it for the moment because I don't know if any of us are gonna make a defensive case yet. But we're just talking about I'm talking about just putting the ball in the hole at a highest percentage with the highest efficiency. Nobody was doing it better than Shaq during that LA run.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what I mean by better.
Shaq was
Okay,
cold
so
that
essentially
day, I'm
what
telling
you're saying is the best person in the league at any given time is the person who has the highest scoring average.
Not this because it's got to be remember efficiency and what was the other one I said percentage. So they do efficiency ratings of a lot of these players. Giannis is up there. Shaq's historically been up there. Where these guys, when they get the ball, what are the likelihood of them scoring? There's the percentage of them putting it in there. Then there's also the likelihood of them scoring. Shaq was one of those guys. If we gave him the ball, he was pretty much going to score.
I'll take your definition for me and add versatility to it.
See, I don't like the versatility part of it too because
it's my definition. I don't care what you like.
I know, but you say you added to mine. The reason why I don't like the versatility part of it too, because you only need to be versatile if people can stop the other stuff that you're doing. Like Kyrie's at 6'3", 6'4", whatever he is, he needs to be versatile because he can't score every kind of way, all the different ways the same way. Shaq had the black tornado.
But again, we're talking. So I'll take most dominant player. Dominant is a more apt description of what Shaq was. He's unstoppable. But
I think we say that because
his skill set in other aspects of the game was diminished or not fully developed because he never had to do it.
I say we say most dominant, and you see that with a lot of the sports commentators because they don't want to do the hard work of putting the numbers side by side with guys like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, all the players, all the guards that we loved, who bought their shoes at the time. Shaq was a better player than them, but we don't want to disqualify Kobe or whoever it was at the time. Tracy McGrady. So we say, oh, Shaq was the most dominant, so we give him like a special category. So he doesn't have to compete with everybody else. But if you make Shaq compete with everybody else, because he was the better player.
Skill set, and he can't shoot free throws. His whole career, that's a fundamental skill set in basketball, and he was poor at it the whole time. So when you look
he made it when they counted. Shout out to Shaq. That's what he always says.
Some seasons
always says
that. 30 though.
he did make it when it counted because that's something that Shaq says. I made it.
When it counted. I made it when it counted.
They employed a whole strategy called hacking.
It's like they counted the whole time.
Game often when you could have used those wins.
Remember Pop? I think Pop did it to him like his last year playing or whatever. Pop did it, and he kind of looked at him and laughed or whatever.
Yeah, as a joke.
As a joke.
And guess what? It was
Shout
funny.
Out to Pop.
It was like, man, it's still effective.
But yeah, but I think
fresh. Like I said, nowadays, like I said, the top scorers, they got open threes. They're making a lot of open shots. A lot of Shaq's points was contested, man. Like you gotta. I could see why Vulcan is saying that as far as being able to put the ball, be able to score, and your shots being contested more because you're in that paint, so it's being contested more than other great scorers.
Are they contested though?
Yes, he's the hacker shot.
Yeah, it was definitely contested because
if I take my 10-year-old son out here in the driveway and I back him down in the paint, he's there. Is it contested? I don't know if that's what you would count as contested. There's a bunch of people that were guarding Shaq that were present.
Yeah, like five at one time. That famous photo with New Jersey Nets. Go ahead.
So very few people in the league were actually contesting a Shaq dunk. Yeah, plenty of people there.
So what they was doing there,
they've had
and failing.
They've had NBA players like Steve Nash, all of the guys have talked about their stories about Shaq, where they're literally fouling him as hard as they can, and he's taking them up with the ball for the dunk. So Shaq was getting fouled every single play.
Right, but that's not a skill set. That's a person who's gifted. That's not something you can teach.
Well,
listen, real quick. We've never seen a duplicate of Shaq because we've never seen a duplicate of Shaq. We've never seen someone be as dominant as Shaquille O'Neal because we never had nobody in the league that was athletic, 7 feet tall, and 350 pounds, bro.
That's not Shaq's problem.
No, you're right. It's not.
Give him his crown.
Who sound like the hater right now? Me or Fresh right now?
give him his crown, man.
I gave him his most dominant crown because that's the description of what he was. But better is he couldn't make free throws.
Okay, but it's I still and I agree with you about that to some extent, but I still think it's a net positive at the highest level, which makes him the best. Because once you subtract how bad he was at free throws, he was so unbelievably better at putting that ball in the hole.
It's still scoring, except he's still scoring over 30, man. Like, and bad at free throws. All this points came from
still.
And he's more dominant. He scored the same. Okay, he scored the same way over and over again because no one could stop that one way. But that's dominance. That's not better. His skill set is not better. He can't make free throws. And guess what? As soon as you put a hack and Shack on him, he's out of the game. He's as ineffective as a dominant player could be. Like, oh, you know what? If you just don't let Shaq back you down and you foul him, make him get the points at the free throw, he's ineffective.
I'm saying he's still net the best though. He's after you subtract that out.
When you're talking about better, he was never able to overcome that. That was a proven way in the league to stop him, and he was never able to overcome that.
But again, because there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. But again, we're not comparing him to the perfect version of himself. We had no fault. We're comparing him to everybody else in the league. Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant stopped themselves. They had games where they only scored 20 points a game. They had games where they struggled.
Shaq struggled.
Shaq averaged over 37 points with like 20 blocks. 20 rebounds and stuff like that.
For 1 year?
No, he had the 3 years they won back to back to back. He was unguardable. I'm talking about like this. Is what all the commentators are saying. Yeah. All of them, from Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes to all the Detroit Pistons players, all of them are like, we couldn't do nothing with Shaq. We couldn't do anything with that guy. On a Gilbert Arenas podcast, what's his name? Kenya Martin talking about it. There was nothing we could do with Shaq. Nothing we could do.
That's what I told you that famous picture when they played against the New Jersey Nets, and all five of them, and Shaq is still ducking all five. You got Kenyon Martin, you got Jason Kidd. I forgot the other guys on the team. Like
all little niggas. Comparatively. I'm not saying
unless your name was Yao Ming, that was all of them out.
I'm not saying he wasn't unstoppable, but that speaks to his dominance and less his skill set. Being unstoppable is not a skill set unless you're unstoppable because of your skill set.
That is a skill set. He's exercising skills.
Not a skill set. That's not something he developed. He came out of the womb like that. He
couldn't dunk as a junior.
That's like saying somebody like, yo, you're the best ever because you're tall.
No. Because there are tall guys like him that couldn't do what he could do.
There's no tall guy like him. There's no seven. You know what? You're right. There are tall guys like him. They all are offensive linemen in the NFL.
So go ahead. You know, you about to say something?
So you do got to develop skills to score, especially if you know as big as he is. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you gotta perfect.
Yeah, he had handles.
That's a skill.
Right, but he never surpassed Kareem, and Kareem didn't have the physical abilities that he did. Kareem was also unstoppable because he was just taller than everyone.
Kareem was unstoppable because he was just that guy. As the young people say nowadays, he was Himothy. So, Kareem, I think he won state or national championship in college. He was undefeated, and I think in high school he was undefeated in college. I think he was undefeated in NBA. And still won some rings in NBA. I think that was when the ABA, NBA stuff was going on. But yeah, he was always that guy.
But do you think that because you see this narrative with the older guys hating on the younger people? You think Shaq is there some truth to what he's saying, or you think he's
Shaq is definitely a very emotionally up and down guy.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch Shaq's show with with on TNT with Turner, Turner Classic Network, so you see the same thing. He's always been a very emotional guy. You know, it's almost predictable what he's going to say sometimes based off whatever's triggered him in the moment. So I'm always leery of his commentary because he vacillates based off how he's feeling. And if we're being honest, he's a well-known bully. In the NBA, he was a well-known bully, so we know that's a part of his nature is to take advantage and of people who he can take advantage of. Now, I've already mentioned his philanthropic nature on the side of that, so I'm not saying that's some kind of mean enemy guy. And he says a lot of cool stuff on podcasts that I'm a big fan of. But when I watch him on with Charles Barkley and Kenny and Ernie back in the day, like he's the part of the butt of the joke because they know how sensitive of a guy he is. And
Yeah,
so
Charles Barkley be going in.
Charles Barkley be going in on. And so the thing about Shaq is that he's definitely hated on people, and then later on he tries to make up for it and act like it wasn't. He'll try to redefine history, like he does that with Dwight Howard recently. You saw him and Dwight Howard had to sit down. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but
Oh yeah, I was trying to motivate you. Shut
yeah,
up.
I'm trying to motivate you. Yeah, you being a bully. The thing is that he wears his heart on his sleeve. Everybody knows that. We listen to Kobe. Everybody talk about how he was in the league. He was putting guys to sleep by putting them in arm locks. Neck locks and stuff, and in the locker rooms, putting boys to sleep. And then Kobe even said in this Patrick David interview, he was like he had no shame. He was a mean man, and he had no shame about it either.
Hey,
He said
I
he
don't want
was
to hear about
big and he
Kobe. I
was
don't want to hear
mean because he
about.
said
I want
most
to hear
tall
about
guys are a little
Kobe's.
timid, more timid. He said Shaq wasn't at all. He was mean, a mean guy, man.
I don't want to hear nothing about Kobe talking about who's mean and who's not. All right, he's notoriously mean.
So he can't take one to no one.
Yeah, but I'm not respecting his opinion on Shaq being a mean man.
Well, because he
Let's
wasn't.
talk about how mean you were, Kobe. Let's talk about that.
Well, he wasn't when I saw he wasn't talking about he wasn't saying mean in an incriminating way. He was more so saying about the gifts that Shaq had and he had the personality and the physical giftings to be the greatest. Is the point Kobe was saying, and he was saying oh he was mean. Most guys that his size are more timid. He said Shaq didn't have that problem. Shaq had everything you would need to be great except for the work ethic. That was Kobe's point. Sorry, go ahead. What'd you say?
What gifts?
He was saying he had all the gifts. Had the height, he had the size, he had the athleticism, he had the intangibles like the personality, everything.
And Kobe's number one problem with him was that he didn't really work hard enough to develop any of those things, right? So that was just him waking up out of the bed, and he was just like that, right?
No. His whole thing is that he didn't, because mind you, Kobe's judging work ethic at the highest possible level. Jordan, Kobe, LeBron work ethic.
Anyone in the NBA we're talking about the highest level.
No, well, I mean, I wouldn't say
a lot of good, talented players. There's not a lot of great players, though. Kobe's
Steven Jackson,
the greatest players.
Yeah, Steven Jackson, and a lot of those guys say that Kobe's level of work ethic was when he was already in high school like that. They say everybody at McDonald's in high school, everybody at McDonald's. Kobe be like, I ain't eating that stuff. I'm out, y'all.
That's because Kobe was grew up in Europe, where McDonald's is not real food.
But then he was in Philly, which is a really black city.
Yeah,
Philly. You know what's funny?
A lot of Philly.
If you've never been to the East Coast, it's not even a whole bunch of fast food restaurants out there. They got the Aki shop. They got sandwich shops. They don't have. It ain't a whole bunch of fast food.
Aki way.
At least back then.
Yeah.
When I was traveling to Philly and places on the East Coast in the military, like he had to go out of the city basically to find like a McDonald's or a Burger King or something like that.
Yeah. I asked Vulcan this earlier. What you think, Fred? You think he's hating on the younger generation, the basketball talent, the NBA players?
I'm gonna say no. As vehement as I am about his place in history in terms of his greatness, I don't think he's hating, and not only because I agree with him, but I think he has positional authority. He's done everything that these guys are trying to do. So I think in terms like if we're talking about whose opinion that we will respect and whose opinion is validated in this space, I don't think you can find a much more valid opinion than Shaq, based on his history, his experience, and his level of achievement. I don't think he's hating. I think that's like telling the astrophysicist that, what's the famous astrophysicist's name? He's and I say famous. He's got three names. Goodness gracious.
Neil deGrasse.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? That's like telling him he's hating, but he's one of like foremost leaders in his community. He's speaking from experience.
I get the correlation.
Fine, but I don't think it's hating.
I don't get the correlation. I don't see somebody's resume disqualifying them from hating.
I agree with that. I'm not saying that it automatically disqualifies him. I'm saying what he's saying based on and what he's done. He's okay. Here's hating. I'm going to talk about something that you can't do or change anything with, right? I'm going to talk about how poor you are. I'm going to talk about how dark you are, or something like that. Like, he's talking about something where he would be the expert.
In a disparaging way, right?
He's talking about a level of toughness. He's talking about a level of grit that he had, and he's noticing that there's a lack of it. And I think that's all he's saying is like, listen.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, hating would be not taking into consideration the fact that the rules have changed. So to me, it doesn't. He may be making the right observation and saying that it's softer, which a lot of people have said that. But that's less to do with the players and more to do with the direction the league wants to go to it as it's become more of a global brand. So I mean, I don't. So to judge Fish's ability to ride a bicycle, I think may be slightly bit inappropriate.
But he's been saying it for a while now.
Not just him too. That's not just him saying that either.
Right. But okay, so what about current players who also say it's a softer league? Which opinion are we negating based on the rules?
Well, I would say this. I don't think we should negate any of them. It's a softer league, so what? That's the new NBA. It's a more skilled league. It's a better shooting league. So there's going to be some pros and there's going to be some cons on that. But why are we making softness or hardness the standard? Isn't it just a standard for its time?
Well, that's not his only accusation. That's not his only criticism. It's softness.
He knows Frozen.
He said they can't play.
Sorry.
Like, he's talking about their skill set. He's saying they can't.
So I thought he knows was Frozen for a while. What you over to Google and he knows.
Trying to debunk Fresh right now.
He's trying to what?
I said try to debunk, looking for something to debunk.
We got anything more on the Shaq thing? We can do this all day. I know we love sports now. We can do this all day, but
talk about what a debut is.
You said what again?
So let's talk about what a debut is.
Debunk.
Oh, debunk.
Who said debunk? I said debunk.
No, he was debunk. I thought he was saying but like as opposed to rebut.
No, yeah, the butt. It's just like a fancy way of saying butt, right? Like it's like French. Is that French?
Enos, mute him right now. You're in time.
We'll have to mute the show. The show's named after this guy. We're going to mute you. All right, let's get into Will Smith. We
gotta work.
Just
we gotta work on these segues.
Say yeah.
We gotta work on these segues, but go ahead.
Debrief.
Speaking of that, shout out to Help the Bear. The debriefing is coming. The debriefing is coming. Shout out to Help the Bear, man. We always appreciate your comments. Oh, this was earlier. We was talking about basketball. But Tubbo was 38 his rookie year anyway. That's funny. Rappers do.
I was missing comments.
In the league young like Kobe and they be like grown men, some of them, right? All right.
No.
I'm go ahead and get y'all thoughts on this. Shout out to Will.
Producers are the first Bad Boys. And we saw a screen and it was really good. And he said, I said, man, it's good. It's at about 90%, and he said, the great thing about being at 90% is at least you're halfway there.
Halfway,
right?
It's crazy.
And I was like, And that has turned out to be so true. The difference between 90% and 100% is lifetimes of difference. The difference between a good player and a great player is light years. It's like, you know, my son was a chronic B student and he would get B's all the time. And he was like, Dad, you know, it's just, I really could get A's, you know, if I wanted to. And I was like, nigga, I promise you, you can't.
Believe in yourself.
I promise you, you can't. You think that the difference between a B and an A is the same as the difference between a C and a B. Nigga, it's not. It's not, right? It's like you might have to eat differently. Like you might have to change friends. You might have to study sleep, you know, to get from B's to A's. It's like the difference between good and great, it is underestimated by most humans. It's like, if you want to be good, you can be talented and be good. You can wake up and be good. Like, you know, but if you good and you just wake up and be good, you're not gonna beat me. You're never gonna beat me if you're not if you're not doing, you know, 70-hour weeks on your craft, right? And it's like, that is such a hard thing to communicate to people. And it's even more difficult when people are talented. When people get a B easy.
They think they got it.
They think they got it, you know? And it's like, I'm telling you, it's like, it's not easy, but it is really simple to change your life. It's so simple, right? People don't realize that one bad night fucks up 10. You can't get drunk and fucking not work out on Saturday. You can't, you mess up 10 days. Like somebody else is getting past you in that time. It's like the level of sharpness and discipline that it takes to get to the heights that you dream of is really simple. It's just not easy.
Wise
Yo, yo, yo.
words.
Yo.
Very wise words.
What's up, Fresh? Agree or disagree?
It's our turn, baby. Gator boo.
What's the premise? What am I agreeing or disagreeing with? He said a lot. The video was like 5 minutes long.
Should he have slapped Chris or not on this play?
Exactly. Let's talk about it. Absolutely not. Okay. I want Will Smith to stop using the nigga word so freely, trying to re-ingratiate himself with the black community. Okay. We're done with Smith. We're done. Your name's Willard, first of all. Let's talk about that.
I don't know. Black folks really mess with Chris Rock like that anyway. He's in my top. He's in my top. He's in my top 5.
You mean modern blacks, or you talking about blacks for the 90s, 80s?
I feel like this way. I don't think anybody our age group and lower mess with Chris Rock like that. And he's in my top 5
because they know him and don't mess with him.
He's just corny to them. He's lame. Nobody likes a punk. It's okay to be a punk in a movie, but Mike Epps wasn't a punk in real life. I mean, Chris Rock talks about getting bullied as a child, all that kind of stuff.
Accurate, because anyone our age and younger is sensitive as hell.
They still don't like the persona.
Let's you talk about the YNs, but the rest of the generation, they really value sensitivity and safe spaces and they talk about toxic masculinity. Will Smith is a toxic. He used toxic masculinity. Okay, Rock is a victim, and this
after
is
Bigger and Blacker,
a victim protector.
Put it this way: I've asked probably 100 people in my life, at least your top 5, top 10 comedians. Black folks don't mention Chris Rock like that. It's almost like he's got the Dave Chappelle, Faison Love kind of thing going on. Faison talks about how the blacks didn't really mess with Dave Chappelle, him over a white audience, which Dave Chappelle is in a lot of people's top 5s. But Chris Rock, I mean, he's in mine, mind you.
Dave
but he's not in
people's top 5 because of the Chappelle show.
Chappelle show.
Even though he should be in their top 5s because of his stand-up, because it's flawless.
Yes,
Yeah, the
that's
But
that. You
Chappelle
got a
show.
good.
Chappelle's
That's
also a
what brought
comedian's
him.
comedian. But again, real quick, and Chappelle is in the people's top 5, even the young people, because it's the popular pick. He's hot right now.
Well, plus Netflix is big, and he's been big in Netflix. Only thing I can think of with Chris Rock with Netflix was Tambourine, and that was like one in the whole Netflix era.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I would challenge most people,
Chappelle's had like 5 or
majority of people
6,
that you have
7, 8.
Chris Rock in their top 5, they have
Chap-
Chappelle in their top 5. I would challenge them to name me 2 pre-Netflix Chappelle stand-ups.
Well, but you gotta think like
I
Chappelle
pick.
has probably like 6 or 7 on Netflix, probably 8 or 9 because he's got his stand-up ones. Then he's got the Mark Twain Award. Then he got one thing he did for like some kind of school he went to.
Right. But
He's
what
got
I'm saying is he's the popular pick, which is why most people, when I say most people, I just mean the majority, have him in their top 5. But how many of those people had him in their top 5 without Netflix? Like,
Yeah, I know he was part. Nah, he had the Chappelle show. I'm pretty sure people had him top 5 even during that time.
top 10 at least.
Because a lot of times when people say their favorite comedians, they only usually judge it off their stand up. They're just guys that's funny. So Chappelle had the world, well, especially our community, on lock when the Chappelle show was airing. So I doubt that.
I
I
think
think
yeah.
he
I
had
mean, a
bigger with the
lot of his
Netflix,
stand-up. I don't know because I remember like Killing Them Softly, but I don't think a lot of black people were really, especially black people in the hood, wasn't really rocking with stuff like that.
no, but that's my point exactly, is that you have a bunch of like black people rock with Chappelle now because of his Netflix run and Chappelle.
Yeah,
show.
more people. Yeah.
Right,
Especially
but
the younger crowd.
those are not people who are really like, they're not really locked in. That's why I mean by the popular, like the popular vote. You're talking about like who's your favorite comedian? It's like, well, Chappelle he's the hot vote.
Yeah,
But
back.
if you go back to his hiatus, right? Let's even go right after Chappelle show. I would bet money that at least 50% of the people that have him in their top 5 right now would not have had him in their top 5 then, even though. I think some of his most impactful work as a real fan, Vulcan mentioned Killing Them Softly, was pre-hiatus, was pre-Africa. He came back swinging, but his like some of his best work was before he went out.
Yeah, I would say a lot of his stuff. If I had to pick, it wasn't Chitlin Circuit for sure. So I think he missed a lot of his comedy is a little bit too highbrow for the Chitlin Circuit. And you see Aries Spears and Godfrey talking
Don't
about
do it,
that.
man.
They talk about like sometimes they would hate to play the Chitlin Circuit because they were like their comedy is a little bit too highbrow for that demographic, and that's something that as
He
a black
doesn't go
community we got to
nowhere in the
reconcile with.
South.
Yeah, we gotta reconcile that. You know, we gotta really take that in because as a community we got to do a better job. We got our own comedians saying I don't want to go do comedy down there because they don't get my jokes.
Wow. So back
But
to
right,
Aries,
nigga.
So back to the video. I was actually with you because I said agree or disagree. I'm pretty sure you disagree with something Will Smith said. So I'll just share your thoughts, whatever you want to.
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I agree with what he said.
Okay.
But again, he said a bunch of stuff. So I was asking which thing you were asking me. Do I agree with his overall premise? Which is what?
How he's defining great, good versus great. How he's defining those two.
Oh, perfect. And, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. We'll just share whatever your thoughts, what you was thinking when he was talking.
I will say this: while I agree with the overall premise, I don't agree with the level of difficulty. The gap is certainly wide, in my opinion, but I don't think it's the way he was talking about his son, where he said he can't do it without all of those extremes. I don't think that's the case. I think talent plus hard work will get you to great. Right. So you look at a Kobe who didn't have all of the natural outside of being 6'8", and he was marginally athletic comparatively to like the Vince Carters and the Michael Jordans and the people he's really competing with. But he took his natural talents, and he push himself to greatness with hard work. But that's at the tippy top, like we were talking about earlier. There's other great players like a Tracy McGrady who didn't work as hard as Kobe, who were still considered great, right? You're talking about, so I think you have to add the hard work. I don't think you can just be great, but I do think that you can be naturally talented. I think you can get B's, and if you try, if you were getting B's without trying, you can get A's if you're trying. I don't think the gap. I think the gap is wide, but I don't think it's untraversable. I don't think it's unattainable the way he was making it seem without obsessive levels of hard work. Study, sleep. That's kind of weird. Maybe you just pay attention in class a little bit more. And I say that from experience. I got B's and C's throughout high school, sleeping through class. When I needed to get A's to stay on the basketball team or keep my starting spot, I was able to lock in, and it wasn't a drastic amount of effort. It was just effort.
What you got?
Mm.
You agree with Will? You agree with Fresh? Where you at?
I agree with Fresh that as far as I agree with as far as the premise. I agree with what you need to do as far as the effort to take it from good to great. Excuse me, but I do agree with somebody that's already talented. It is going to be more of a struggle for them to reach another level because they're better than most of the people that's around them. So they haven't actually put themselves to the test to reach another level because they used to being the best in their demographic or their circle. So it would be something if you're naturally doing certain things. Like I get the effort, but I think he's talking about the consistency. If you're already talented, it's hard to be consistent at something that you're not used to doing because it's easy to get you to a certain point that's better than most. So you're going to be in a league of your own, and a lot of talented people are not willing to go to lead of their own.
No, I agree with you, Enos, and with Will on the premise, the basic premise that you're not gonna just be talented and be great.
Because great, I want to interject. Great means like perfect, like how I'm interpreting. He's saying 90. I'm talking about perfect, great, 100%. You reach levels nobody ever reached before.
Well,
I get why you have to change your mindset
there's
and
only one
change
great person
your day to day to reach that kind of level. I'm sorry.
If that's the case, then there's only one great person in any space at any given time. Is that what you're saying? There's only room for one great person.
It depends, right? So
Kobe.
Let's talk about Will Smith. His run from those movies he was doing, from I Am Legend to those years, nobody else could do that. I don't think nobody else could do that. All those movies that was going number one, selling box office numbers at that time, yeah, he's the only one that was able to do that. I don't have the list in front of me, but the list every summer, the movies he was dropping, no, he was the only one that could do it at that level at that time.
When you say at the level, what is your measurement? Are we talking about box office, like money?
Yeah, box office, views, things people have never accomplished before on a consistent basis.
To that point, my question would be, when you define great, you say perfect, something that no one's ever done before. Is that an accurate? Okay, so does that mean Kobe wasn't great until he surpassed Jordan?
Was Kobe great? Yeah, Kobe didn't reach Jordan's level. He's not even close. He's good. I mean, he's greater than a lot of the players on his level, but as far as aesthetically, his natural ability, he's nowhere near Jordan's level. As far as
talking about greatness, you said greatness is near perfect. Who's done something that no one's ever done before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's certain things that certain things Jordan did that Kobe hasn't done.
Right. So I would venture to say that what you're defining is the greatest.
Okay.
But not great. I think multiple people can be great in the same space. The way you define it is there's only room for one great person in any given. And that person is not great as soon as someone surpasses him. You said done something that no one's ever done before. So once it's accomplished,
Yeah, in the league.
no one who accomplishes that able to be great because it's already been done.
Okay, so
Well,
how would you define it then when you use this? How would you define the great? What great is?
I would just say that you're at the top of your game in elite company is how I define great.
Okay.
So there's a base level for most industries that define you as a professional, and then you take those top level individuals and you look at who's at the top of that in terms of accomplishments, and those are great. But that can encompass like a top 10, right? That you can go depending on how many people are in that space. There can be multiple great,
but not at the same time, right? You can't have two number ones, right? At the
right?
same.
No, that's why I think your definition is you're defining the greatest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
Which is a singular position, like the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I always get into these little tiffs with people who feel like if you say LeBron the GOAT, that you're saying he's trash. That's not the case. LeBron is one of the greatest players of all time, but the GOAT, greatest of all time, is a position only one person can hold. It's not era specific because it's the greatest of all time. It's in the name. That being said, I think you're defining the singular position of greatest, which in that case I would agree. But if you're talking about just being great, which is what Will Smith was talking about, you can't be great without a certain level of effort. I think multiple people can reach those levels of effort in the space at the same time.
Yeah, for me, I probably, if I had to just try to give a definition on top of my head, which I've never tried to define before, I would say great would be within a 1 out of 20. So anybody who's to me doing 1 out of 20, I'd probably say that they're great. And then if you want to start getting even more specific within that, anything smaller than that would be greater. So obviously, all the NBA players are, there's like what 400 NBA players, and there's probably been about 4 or 5,000 NBA players total, or something like that, less than 10,000. So they're already in the elite of the elites. Then if you got a guy who's in a 1 out of 20 in the NBA, that's special. Go to Kobe. Jordan had 2 3-peats. Kobe had a 3-peat and then a 2-peat. That hasn't really been done. If it has been done, it's only been done a handful of times in all the years the NBA's been around. So to me, that's greatness. That's by any measure, that's going to be considered great.
Than that already
Robert
done.
Horry is on that list.
On what list?
He did what? How many repeats he did?
No, that's what the guy.
I know. I'm curious. How many repeats did Robert Horry have?
Don't get me riled up.
He did 2. He was with the Lakers, so he did a 3 repeat. When he went the Lakers, I think I don't know. I just know that he did a 2 repeat with the Houston Rockets, and I think he did.
He did a 2 repeat. So he did 2 repeats with the Rockets, because Rockets only got 2 rings.
Yeah, he did 2, right? 2 repeats.
So
and then he did 3 with
for there to be 2 repeats, they have to have won at least 3 rings for there to be 2 repeats.
I mean, Kobe did 2
earlier.
Say yeah. 2 rings. I'm just saying he got 2 rings back to back. Robert Horry, Kobe got 2 rings back to back with Paul Gasol, and Kobe got 3 rings back to back with Shaq. And I'm like, wasn't Robert Horry on the same team when he got those 3 rings?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Okay.
No,
I'm just saying if he was, then he's on Kobe's level then.
No. Again, that's
according to Vulcan's definition.
No, I'll let Vulcan defend his own definition, but
I'm just going off a lot of the bench players that
the ring argument over to this argument. The ring argument is not singular in who has the most rings. It's multiple. Yeah. It's a multi-layered conversation. To even be in the ring in the greatest of all time conversation, you have to have certain accolades already. Robert Horry doesn't have any accolades outside of the rings that would put him in the conversation where rings is the deciding factor. That's the problem with people who hyper focus on that. It's not just rings. Rings are what are the deciding factor between the 2 or 3 top level people. Like, hey, if everything is even, what separates them?
Well, my thing is, I mean, I would say that even if you were to grant Robert Horry, somebody's popping firecrackers over there a little early, but even if you grant Robert Horry, it still kind of makes the point because there's only how many people have had back-to-backs in the NBA as far as championship. It's still a small number. No matter how you spin it, it's still going to be a small number compared to the overall percentage. Probably still going to be that 1 out of 20 I was talking about. But Robert Horry, he was great in a lot of ways. Big shot. He was great in that way. He still had some greatness to him. You know, so and it's debatable. You know, he could do it all. He could handle the rock. I think he's probably one of those guys who grew kind of late because he had a really good handle of the ball, a really good touch of the ball for him being such a tall guy. But anyway, so my point was what Kobe was saying, that is greatness because he again he repeated 3 different times. So that's I mean, how many people have repeated 3 times?
Small percentage.
That's I mean, I don't know how many people have done that, but I mean, it can't be more than what 10 guys in the NBA history, maybe. You got, you know, whoever played with the Celtics during their big runs. Whoever played with the Lakers, I don't know how many times the Lakers repeated. The Celtics repeated. I don't know how many times they repeated. The Spurs never repeated, and they got 5. So yeah, you know, but going back to the Will Smith's point, why y'all looking at stuff and getting your points together. I think the part about greatness.
Nah,
he ain't talking about me.
He's trying to slide in there. Listen, Ito
Yeah,
threw you off. I'm
Do
never
your
gonna let you
Googles,
slide on
ladies and
it.
gentlemen.
Yeah,
Do your Googles.
Do your Googles, people. Yeah, you got the internet in your pocket.
Get Googles.
Go to the great philosopher. So, but yeah, I think Will Smith has a really good point as far as greatness is concerned. I do think people underestimate what it takes to be great. I do this all the time, being in management, running a business, all that kind of thing. You see the same kind of thing. People come up to you complaining about, I don't have this, I want to get this, especially in the sales world, the sports world. You know, any super competitive world where you're all pulling out of the same pie to make a living and eat off of. Guys are going to complain, and when you're on the side where you get to see the KPIs, you get to interact with the different guys, see their level of work ethic, how much they're putting into the learning zone, and so you can see how much that they're getting out of the performance zone. When you see those kind of things, there's no mystery there, you know, and that's why Kobe talks about how, if I'm gonna pass you the ball, I see what time you show up to practice, I see what time you leave, so I'm gonna give you the ball. And I think a lot of people underestimate what it takes to be great. Partly because of what's been mentioned before, reference group. You may judge it based off your reference group. If you're the best, if you're the biggest fish in your pond, then you're thinking it can't get any bigger than that. People don't realize fish grow as big as the pond they're in, and especially the fishing the fish tank that they're in. That's what I wanted to say. So
The aquarium?
the aquarium, a fish tank, but yeah, the aquarium as well. They limit. They have some kind of hormone to limit how big they get, so they can survive in their environment. And we had that to some extent too. Brian Tracy's book, Psychology of Sales, talks about people if their dad only made or their mom only made 50,000 a year, whatever the number was. You may have a certain limitation in your mind that I can only achieve that level. I can't go much higher than that. The same thing goes for the guys in the league. You know, some guys don't believe in themselves enough they can get much better because at some level the betterment becomes incremental. It's not going to be the same major advances that you had when you were younger. Now it's like any given Sunday, it's a game of inches, and not everybody has the patience or the wherewithal to deal with that. They want the immediate gratification that used to come from, I go in the gym and I see my muscles bulging. Now I'm already fit, and I go in the gym and I'm tired, but I don't see any new results because it's not going to be as noticeable as it was before. Not everybody has that kind of mindset. When he talks about his son with the grades, I think that's a really good point. I think that as somebody who was chronically a terrible student altogether, I had moments where I had straight A's, moments where I had A's and B's, all that kind of different stuff. Little stints, obviously going to school for 12 years. You know, I may have had a semester or two where I achieved greatness, maybe to get an award or something like that. You know, but generally I wasn't that great of a student. Didn't really go to class and that kind of stuff. But I'll
So
say
you were
this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was always in the weight room or in the gym playing basketball on the cafeteria. But I will say this: the level of consistency it takes to be a straight A student, which means doing all your homework, because the zeros mess your grade up. Anybody that didn't do the best when it came to getting their homework done, them zeros gonna drag that grade down.
to a 91, you can still do it.
Well, I mean,
Get homework.
that's one. Now I heard kids don't even get homework anymore.
I
But what
know.
happens is, but the thing is,
Mine,
you got about yeah. So the thing is, so when you're getting if you have a whole semester and you have, you know, you didn't turn your homework in, you might get homework 50 times in a semester. If you don't turn in 5 of those, that might keep you from getting an A. You know, and I know, and then all the little things you got to do. Like I remember one of the big things that would always trip me up in school was that notebook grade. They'll let you know, hey, look, because kids weren't good at taking tests and stuff like that, they couldn't master the material. The school will be like, look, we're gonna give y'all a little bone. All you got to do is keep your little binder organized, and we're gonna grade you on how organized it is at the end of the semester. I knew I was gonna fail that before he even gave it to me. It's like y'all go base it off that, then. Just base it off the test. Y'all base it off the test, I'm gonna be a straight A student. If you base it off anything other than that, I'm cooked. And so that's exactly what happened in school. So I would say that when it comes to measuring that greatness, just to putting the schoolwork where it goes on a day-to-day basis, taking your textbook home, the heavy textbook you got to take with you, maybe some 3 or 4
like
at one time sometimes.
the
That
devil.
takes a certain level of consistency.
Yeah, yeah,
A
that's
great
definitely.
level of consistency. And then not every class can you just rely on high IQ. Some people that are gifted intellectually when it comes to certain math or, you know, math assignments, you know, maybe even some reading assignments. When it comes to like history or science, you got to actually learn that stuff. You're not born knowing what boron and hydrogen mixed together is going to equal. You got to learn that. Some kind of way it's got to get in your head that that's what that works, no matter how brilliant of a mind you are. And so if you're not doing that, you're not a student, you're not being studious in that way and being consistent, that's gonna hurt you. You know, I always wore glasses. I almost never had glasses when I was going to school. So, and I was sitting in the back. If I sat in the front, I would have had a better shot. I didn't even know what half the assignments were most of the time I was in school because I didn't have my glasses on and I was way in the back. If I
Trying
was even awake.
wasn't trying to be really a square.
So anyway, so going back to the point that he's making, I do think people underestimate. I've actually played this video for a number of people that I've trained and mentored in business and sales because of the fact that a lot of them don't understand. None of them have ever been exposed to somebody who wanted to be great before. So all they can compare themselves is to the people that are similar to them, maybe a little worse, maybe a little bit better. So when I have guys and I'm sitting down having a talk with them, letting them know like, hey, look, you got to step it up if you want to get this level of access to better quality leads or whatever it is. You want to get this level of playing time on the court, whatever what's going on. You want to be in business. You want to be this level of business, or we have a 513C. You want to be this position instead of that position. What kind of work are you putting in when nobody's looking? That's going to matter. You know what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of people underestimate that. They've never been exposed to true greatness and true work ethic. How much time are you putting in? You know,
Yeah,
people greatly underestimate that. So I think Will Smith brings up a really good point with that about really being halfway there, because the day to day it takes to be able to be a straight A student. I think straight A students, like a 4.0 GPA in high school, is like 2 to 3% of the population. You know, and so that being the case, that's a very rarefied position to be in. And so yes, that's greatness.
yeah,
And it does.
and if you
Go
ever
ahead.
to achieve, if you ever to able to achieve that type of success, that's you have to consider the role of self knowledge, self mastery. So if you know your
Yeah,
weakness, that's hard to do, man. To people to really,
day in and day out, and also a part of it because I've known, you know, kids, especially Asian kids, that were culturally pressed on them to strive for excellence all the time academically, and it was a lot of stress on them. primarily girls that I'm thinking of, but it was a lot of stress because they couldn't do what the other kids were doing. They had to be inside at times.
Mm-hmm.
I can do what other kids are doing and get an A on my test. You see what I'm saying? My notebook grade was going to be trash. My homework was going to be, trash at times if I didn't study. Like I said, some subjects that require more than just a high IQ, it requires you to actually learn the material. Like again, the table of elements and what this chemical mixed with this chemical meant, what happened in history. You only can get that information if somebody gives to you. Math, some people could do math, but I was able to do math in my head. I was pretty gifted when it came to math, so I can extrapolate how to create my own formula on the spot that may or may not work as the formulas get more and more intense. But when they're on a smaller scale, I could do that and pass a test. I may not be to show my work the way that the teacher would like, but I was able to do that. But once you get to other subjects where you got to actually learn the material, that's a sacrifice. And sometimes you have to learn it in class. That's part of the reading assignment. And now you're taking this big old book home amongst other big books. Got a heavy backpack. Your friends want to go play sports. They want to go do this. They want to go do that. And you got to make a decision. And going to the sleeping part that he mentioned, sometimes it's like, I'm tired. Sometimes you might wait till the last minute. Now you're tired. Now your brain's not taking information anymore. So you got to either study sleep better. Am I going to wake up early? Am I going to go to sleep earlier? What am I going to do to get to this point? So I do think that there's some legitimacy in what he's saying when it comes to being able to study sleep and understand your sleeping patterns. A lot of people that are trying to be great in the NBA, NFL, chess, match, people who compete at a high level are looking at every single advantage they can get to be at the top long as they possibly can, and everything matters. Studying
And
sleep.
that's why I agree with him when he
Will
said
Smith
it's
saying
hard
that
for
by.
talent.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said that's why I agree with him. He said most talented people, it's hard for them to get to that level because they haven't been exposed. Their limitations haven't been exposed because they're better than everybody in their circle or wherever they at. They haven't actually been exposed to the limitations. So you don't know. You're not as self-aware to as a person who know their limitations. That's why Kobe was. If you listen to his interviews, he understood his limitation. He knew he wasn't. He didn't jump the highest. He didn't have the biggest hands. So he tweaked and perfected his work ethic to become who he was. So that's why I agree with Will Smith about talented people rarely get their be confronted with their limitations.
Well, I would say they really, are put in a situation where they have to display greatness in their practice. One thing about that Draymond Green would say about Kevin Durant, he was like, he actually practices game speed. Like Draymond Green, multiple champion who played at a high level in college and in the NBA, has this guy come on his team, Kevin Durant, and he was like, actually, it was noteworthy for him to say, like, this guy actually practices. I watched this guy practice. He actually practices game speed. Like, that's how rare it is that he felt the need to bring it up to the media. And I've heard I think it was Jason Williams. Other people have said like watching Kevin Durant work out is make you tear up. I heard people say stuff like that. Like this level of workout is something different. And these are all NBA players. They've been working out since they was in high school. Michael Beasley said they don't even get into shape until you're in college. He said you don't even really know basketball shape till you get in college. So Michael Beasley says. But they said something about when they watched Kevin Durant work out, it made some of them tear up. That's different.
It's different because they soft. That's what I'm talking about. These niggas are soft, man. They out here crying, watching another man.
All right, Shaq.
Bruh, oh.
Yeah.
Come
yeah,
on.
that's
All right,
good.
so
If you
Good.
just say that, man. If you scared, go to church. That's what they say.
oh man.
That kind of knowing your limitation, that aligns with what the show is about, epistemic humility. When you recognize that mastering, that involves understanding oneself and one's limits. And you got to give kudos to somebody that did a lot of self-reflecting and was able to overcome those weaknesses.
Hey, highbrow, you want to go ahead and give a layman's definition of what epistemic humility is?
Yeah, knowing, because when we talk about epistemology, really knowing, having sufficient evidence that justify your beliefs. So you have a good understanding of what you're good at and what you're not good at. Good understanding. So, and once you reconcile with that and account for your weaknesses and get better at it, that's being humble instead of having a self-inflated view of yourself, being in denial who you are. Uh, it's always a good thing and a meek way to define who you are and just work with your capabilities and what you can do, what you was born with. So that's why you have to rely on the system and because rely on effort and consistency because that's what's going to get you to the next level.
So essentially, knowing enough to know you don't know enough, and being humble enough to work on knowing more.
Yeah, I mean, you said it better, or better. Right, Coach.
That's what I'm here for, gang.
Yes, sir, man. All right,
We got next.
Vulcan, what was you just Googling?
Tell the people what you was Googling.
Tell the
Put
people.
your phone on the screen.
Nah, hey,
Oh man.
the reaction was perfect. You did like 50 said.
Oh. All right.
Even.
All right.
We
Next
got
topic: the hidden advantage of being tall or good looking, man.
Pretty
Hidden
privilege or
advantage.
being tall privilege? Listen.
So here we go. You know it. All right, check this out, y'all.
The beauty dividend, well researched, basically says you're going to earn 8% per year the rest of your life just if you are good looking. That's the beauty dividend. You can go online and look at all the studies and the statistics that go with it. But there's also a height dividend, and it is universal. If you look at Americans that are 6 feet 2 inches, so a little taller than me, accounts for about 3% of the population, unless you go to the Fortune 500 companies, and then they account for 39% of all CEOs at 6'2". Whoa, that, my friend, is an order of increase. And you say, are taller people smarter? No. It has to do with the benefit of being tall. There is a dividend. And so we tend to see that across the world. The beauty.
He had to say the people that's taller than me is only 3%. He had to throw that in there. So this guy is obviously a tall person. What's your thoughts on that? Let's get it fresh.
So I think what he's referring to is exclusivity. And while I don't necessarily agree that that should be the measure in terms of how humanity works, exclusivity has always been in high demand and can make higher demands, whether it's actually high quality or not. So you can say, listen, I'm only releasing, there's plenty of like supercars or luxury vehicles that have been released in a limited quantity that when you go do the research, it's like, yeah, this was wrong with it. This was wrong with it. It's a lemon. It's a paperweight, or it costs more to maintain all the problems that it comes with. But that still doesn't change the fact that not only was it expensive up front, but it still holds its value with all of the problems that it has based on the fact that no one else can have it. A very limited amount of people can have it. So when you're looking at the percentages of, who's beautiful and who's tall, those people can make certain demands because just naturally no one else can do what they can do. Now, there are surgeries, right? And there's people out here getting prettier, objectively prettier, through surgery. So I would love to see the upgraded data on that, on if it applies to those people or if it's natural or if it's enhanced, whatever the case may be. But I think that gap is widening and growing in terms of who can demand certain things based on those those metrics.
All right, great. I'm gonna just chime in. I agree with him. Like I agree with Fresh. It is like he says, a small percentage. So you rarely see people that's tall. And I mean, this is not a lot of beautiful people in the world either. Right? So that's in high demand. So that's why people go to the extremes to do the plastic surgery to get chosen or selected to move up in life, or be in position to um, attract more money or influence when you do those type of things. So yeah, I agree with you, Fresh. There, what the gentleman said with the studies that he looked at. Loki, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I think definitely beauty and height. I would kind of separate them as far as how I would tackle them or try to address them for the purpose of this show. But in the book, the 40 Laws of Power, Law 46 talks about people envying people for their beauty, their intelligence, and their charm.
Yeah.
And I would say there's definitely something to the beauty part. But when it comes to the beauty, we have to deal with the fact that the studies show that babies look at people that are more attractive longer, and how they're measuring this stuff. I didn't look at the details of the study, see how they're measuring this stuff. I think that men being a pretty or attractive is more rare. I think there's a lot of beautiful women out there. That's a lot more common. Now, once you get into, you got 10 beautiful men in a room, beauty's going to stand out. The prettier ones are going to stand out to you. And it doesn't take very long. I mean, sometimes you're looking at somebody and you're gazing upon their beauty before you even realize that you're looking at them because they're so beautiful. So you could have 10 pretty women in a room, and then it doesn't take very long for you to realize she's a little different than the rest of them. I think similarly to height, it's not hard to tell mostly, who's taller at a certain people. And there is this thing about, he mentioned CEOs, you got presidents, you see this all around. If there's something about height and stature that makes people respect it more. And I'm sure there's good reason for that. I know that, our hearts are all relatively the same size. So, people that are taller struggle a little bit more when it comes to blood circulation, because we all have a very similar heart. But
This man entered the Great Dane argument into the chat. Get out of here.
So I forgot who it was that was talking about that. Oh, it was John Sally, I think, talking about it on the Vlad one of his Vlad interviews. But yeah, so that's something that's a little more tougher, getting that blood pumping all those extremities because they're so far out there. But I think generally speaking, we know women, love men that are taller. There's been some science that suggests that the more of a difference between the height of the woman and the man, it directly correlates to longevity of the relationship, which is pretty interesting stuff there. So I think the studies show that Black women tend to care about height the most out of the different people groups of women. So there's definitely some stuff there about height for sure. It definitely makes sense.
I would look at the height as more of a objective measure. The beauty is subjective in terms of what it can get you. I know there is a traditional beauty, but even when you look at that, you have like the traditional beauty standards for the greater society are still in effect. But you look at the growing idea of beauty that's come along with the popularity of the big glutes and everything, and those women are looked at as beautiful. Or if you have large breasts, like if you like breasts, to you that woman is beautiful. So I think beauty in terms of what privilege it allows you, it still applies here, but I think it's a much wider and more subjective measurement. Whereas height, like you said, if you're above 6'2", then though that numbers is 3%. I think it's really hard to put a percentage on how many beautiful people are in the world because the metric is so varied.
Well, I think you can. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do agree with you that it's not as easy to measure. It's like measuring basketball and track. Track is very much easy to measure. You either fast or you're not. You either lifted it up or you didn't. If you're throwing some type of thing in the track and field competitions and stuff like that. But basketball's a lot more moving parts. Football, a lot more moving parts. So to your point, I think of beauty, but we do know based off Instagram, based off of dating apps, these things right here, you definitely going to get measure because there's so many folks looking at one profile. So you got two ladies who are relatively close in beauty, and one of them has 1,000 likes, another one has 800 likes. We're saying that, yeah, relative to everybody else, they're way miles ahead, but this girl is prettier than the other girl because you're getting such a large sample size to press on their profile and say I like that. So I do think at some point in time,
It's globally too.
beauty is
Exposure and algorithm, those things enter, which is again why I say it's subjective, because if you put them side to side and offer them that side to side to the same 100,000 million people, and then I think that is very objective. But there's so many different factors that come into play when you're talking about beauty.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors, but we know, like, when people get procedures, people aren't getting procedures to have their nose look like mine. People aren't doing that.
Yeah, but again, to your point, that is one aspect of beauty. But then on the other end of that spectrum, there's also people who are getting procedures to enlarge their glutes.
Because we know that there's a significant, but
women who naturally have those things are not considered traditionally beautiful. But that measure
that part of them is considered beautiful.
Not traditionally. If you look at over in America, or are you just talking about worldwide?
Well, I'm just saying in today's terms, the Kardashians have made it even more popular, and China and all of them.
Shift is what I'm talking about. Traditionally, that's not the case.
But that's been a shift since what, BET?
Hollywood for years. Michelle Pfeiffer is, or any of these popular Caucasian actresses, not to say that they're not pretty.
Michelle Pfeiffer and them. That's how Corey Holcomb said it one time. He was like, Michelle Pfeiffer and them.
Not just that they're not attractive. That's actually what I want to say. Not just that they're not attractive, but they were the beauty standard for years.
Hold on, Michelle Pfeiffer. Yo, yeah.
But again, now you're looking at now you got like Megan Thee Stallion.
I think it was based on just on how she looked, her face aesthetically.
Correct.
The body even all that stuff came later.
Even her body. I mean, you got isotone bodies, man. These women are out here trying to get rid of their bigger derriere. The smaller your derriere is, the tighter it is, the more attractive you are up until a certain point in time.
But I don't think that's ranked as, that's a different level of beauty. I think face wise, what's her name, Michelle?
Yeah. I would think the beauty part is more of the facial part of it.
Today. So we're only so we're only measuring beauty in terms of.
I'm not saying only. I'm saying those are different standards. What I'm saying aesthetically, just face. We talk about nose, lips, eyes. Those things still been consistent over time. Those things be consistent. Body wise, that has changed over the years.
I'm saying there are more women who don't have those features who would be considered beautiful now based on their bodies.
Well, my thing is that we don't. I mean, there's gonna be some parts that are still maybe subjective and culturally based.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I use the nose as an example. There's no black woman getting nose surgery to look like Morgan Freeman's nose, right? It's just not gonna happen. And so the thing is, like, there are certain things.
Morgan Freeman has a big old meatball nose, but a regular Taraji P. Henson nose is not. It doesn't.
That's why they get the surgery, because of people like fresh.
Like, Taraji Henson doesn't have a Michael Jackson nose, but she's still considered beautiful with the nose she was born with.
Well, hold on, because I'm breaking it all down into different compartments. I 100% agree that, because the overall look can still be beautiful, but I'm just saying, if we take the eyes, we have somewhat of an idea what an attractive eye looks like, what an attractive eyebrow looks like, what an attractive cheekbones look like, what attractive lips look like, what attractive chin looks like.
I'm just saying it's more subjective because the idea of what constitutes beautiful has expanded over the years. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we don't have I'm just saying what's traditionally considered beautiful. That idea, that premise has expanded.
I'd say it's expanded, but it definitely hasn't done a 180. So a lot of the same rules, like when we see Marilyn Monroe, we don't go, she was definitely only beautiful for her time. We don't think that.
No, definitely
Dorothy Dandridge. Yeah, we still look at that and go, no, she was pretty then, and she'd probably be prettier now. You can see all these things on social media about the 90s beauty. Give me that 90s beauty back.
Yeah.
You see people talking about that. A lot, you know. So beauty, as far as like just facial wise, I think that to the point, I think there's some subjectivity to it, of course.
No, you're frozen.
Rose.
Please, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh no, he's back.
Oh, okay.
We didn't hear the last like 12 seconds.
Well, I was just saying, like with the internet and the ability to quantify a lot of the looks people get, whether it's Instagram or it's dating apps. You know, you can see, or even when people go online, people go on these shows online, and then you can see who's getting the most views. You know, two women can put a picture of themselves in similar outfits, and one of them's going to get 1 million, one's going to get 500,000.
You're
Generally,
correct. One
yeah.
of them is the one who gets the more is going to have a bigger posterior, which was not my point. Is traditionally that didn't factor in. Actually,
I don't know about the bigger posterior gets the most. I don't know if that's the case.
If everything is the same, if they both are traditionally facially beautiful, the one who's got the bigger, nicer posterior is gonna win.
I think different eye colors can play a role. Hair texture can play as big of a role. Tone. You know, there's a lot of black women who are big time on Instagram, but then I'll see like a regular looking, you know, white girl who's got more views than what I would consider more attractive, you know, black girl online, because a lot of racially, a lot of men that are not black don't prefer African American women like that.
Yeah, but we're at that point in time, we're talking just racial preference, and there's more white people in America than there are black people, so that makes sense. But that doesn't mean subjectively that she's more beautiful. That just means
I don't even know if it's a racial preference, because a lot of the light skinned, green eyed black women, they love them.
Huh? But
a lot of the light skinned, curly haired, you know, light skinned women, like light skinned, green eyed, curly haired girls, they love them. The Hispanic and the white women love them.
More than the white women?
Probably on par.
More than that traditionally attractive white woman you're talking about?
That one's tougher. That's tougher. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I would say, if I had to pick, I'd probably say Hispanic women. I think probably most, you know, men probably universally find the most attractive, if I had to guess.
Because they're right.
Well, because a lot of them are white passing, a lot of them are European, they're Spanish. So a lot of them, you know, technically you could call them white people if you wanted to. But yeah, so I think that's going to be difficult. But I do agree with the guy saying there's definitely a privilege attached to that, because attractive women can work anywhere, but average women can't work everywhere.
That was my point, though. My only point to making was the fact that what you consider beautiful in terms of like the estimate is true about pretty privilege. If someone or if enough people consider you beautiful or attractive, you get certain things that the average looking woman doesn't. But what is considered beautiful or attractive is a much lighter.
Before we get into closing statements, I'm gonna speak for like some of the beautiful women out there that would say, "What about all the hate we get, the envy we get for being prettier? Like we may gain something in some area, but we lose a lot by people pretending to like us when they really just want us for our beauty, and women being intimidated by us and spreading rumors and stuff." So, y'all guys got anything on that? Like the downside of beauty?
I can see that. I can agree with that. I don't. It's still called a privilege. That's, you know, the word. You still have a privilege. You don't have, you know, that's still a benefit, really a positive benefit than versus a woman that's not considered aesthetically beautiful. But I see the downside, like beautiful woman will say, who can they trust, or women envy them. That's a tough road to deal with, you know, going through that type of hatred or envy. So I do empathize with that. That's a good point.
No, you don't.
I do. I mean, because
I feel your pain, sis.
Yeah, I mean, if you got people that's hating on you and for something that you didn't work on, I could feel how that could be frustrating and not have a meaningful relationship.
Almost every beautiful woman can be considered average or ugly if she so chose.
Say that again.
almost every attractive woman can appear unattractive if she wants to. So let's not do that.
Look, they tried to make Halle Berry look not so attractive in Monsters Ball, and I don't think it worked. I was like, that's Halle Berry.
No. Again, they did try to make her look unattractive. They tried to not make her look glamorous.
And Boomerang, the same thing. Maybe they try to make her.
Yeah, I was like, she
I remember as a child. I remember, look, y'all, as a child watching this show, and I don't know these people. I don't know all the glitz and the glamour and all the accolades that come with them yet. So I'm just judging as a kid, is looking at fresh faces, right? And I'm going in my head like, even though they're playing Halle Berry's beauty down, and the other girl, they're making her look better, I'm thinking in my head like, I still think the other girl's prettier. You know, they couldn't make her look less attractive enough that I was convinced that she was the more girl next door attraction. Again, like Jennifer Aniston.
I said women can do that. So if Halle Berry came out the house without her hair done and without no makeup on, and
Fresh is wild. You wild right now, Fresh.
I'm not saying you couldn't. If we never seen Halle Berry look like Halle Berry before, what I'm saying is she could come out and look average. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Look,
Halle Berry's probably out.
Some millionaire scooping her up, bro. Some millionaire scooping Halle Berry up.
Stop the nonsense.
and Halle Berry. Like, yo, that's just a regular Hollywood girl because Halle Berry put on a hat, so you can't really see her. Like any of these girls that are complaining about how much hate they get for being beautiful, they can do something about that.
You buying it, Enos? You buying it?
Come on, bro. Wants to deal with it. Okay,
women,
you gotta look at it like this, Fresh. Yes, the benefits are good, the privilege is good. The people don't like the other side. It's like the other side to it, the hatred. You have women like DJ and my wife talked about somebody slashing her face because they were jealous of her. People have went through some traumatic effects, especially in our community. For
in the black community, yeah, a lot of the light-skinned girls with the curly hair, the long curly hair, they had to fight growing up.
Yeah, by them ugly dirt doggers.
And then the guys that's considered more attractive, they're not considered as masculine. You think a man wants to have that type of reputation who has a wife, a family, and kids, and they're not looking at them as a
you can't even see light skinned folks no more. It's all tattoos. Light skinned people, you can't even see a light skinned person anymore. A light skinned guy anymore. It's all tattoos. Yeah. They got rid of that ASAP. Carmelo Anthony. I know plenty of light skinned guys I grew up with, fully tatted up. But the behind the ears, the neck, they even got them on their face. Like, you're not calling me light skinned no more.
The body's dark skinned.
Yeah, the body dark skinned.
Have negative effects. I'm not saying there's no downside to it. I'm saying the downside, the way they complain about it, is not enough downside for them to do something about it.
It's not enough downside for what?
Yeah, it's not enough downside for them to actually do something about it.
Do what? What do you mean?
Well, because I don't know if you call Fresh's point, but Fresh said that they could, if they wanted to, could make themselves look less attractive.
Oh, okay.
You know, not doing their hair, blah 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 blah. And I was saying that because remember he said Halle Berry, if she just didn't do her hair and walked outside, were you buying that, Edos? That's what I was asking. Were you buying that earlier?
She put this cap on. People still billionaires, millionaires. They're gonna look at her like, oh, that would even make her more of a.
Yes.
Want to get with her even more. Like, oh,
they gonna be like, she down to earth too. She down to earth too. Yeah. I shouldn't even know she fine.
Those people that were hating on her is my point. Those people that are attracted to her, they were never hating on her. I'm talking about if they want to dispel some of the hate that they're getting being beautiful.
One thing about haters, Fresh, one thing about haters, they can smell blood miles away.
Yeah, haters gonna hate.
Yeah, haters gonna hate
and all that. They gonna look like, nah, they doing this on purpose. You know, they gonna
especially the greatest of the haters, the greatest of all time haters.
Hey.
They can spot somebody that looking too good a mile away, man. They already hating on them before they walk. Look at them shoes. I would not have worn them shoes. Yeah, that what color your parents? They already get hit them. As soon as they get close, they hit them with something already.
You must be mixed.
You must be mixed, yeah. Yeah, you light skin. Can you dunk?
Yeah.
You know, he got the white athletics. You know, they already hit them with stuff before they even get started.
Are you kaboom?
You go, like, dang, he's light skinned and he can dunk.
Oh,
hey. Hey, I remember there was this guy, CJ knows him. He went to college with us at St. Philip's. And he was a light skinned pretty boy, right? we all we all
Fresh
had our
already know he's talking. He didn't have to say
yeah, yeah.
the
Bruh, when I tell you, I thought this guy was gonna get all the girls until I heard him talk. He had that light voice. I was like, oh, I'm good.
name. I got a chance. I still got a chance.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Fresh, you know what I'm talking
It
about?
was so disgusting. Yeah, the
Yes.
narrow face too.
Light skin from LA with like, I don't know, blue, green eyes, whatever it was, gray eyes or something crazy like that. Light skin dude, curly hair, all that kind of stuff. Was a pretty good athlete, fast, and but he just had that Mike Tyson voice.
Yeah, the Mike Tyson was.
Shout out to what
Yeah,
you were saying earlier, Fresh, where they could the light skinned dudes don't have to get a hairline. You know, Michael Ealy and the Maxwell, they
Yeah,
still
yeah,
get
yeah.
they still get a lot of the women.
Hey,
So
we had one
some
too.
of them guys
Denzel
do
have a
try.
hairline either. We had one.
real quick. You just said Michael Ealy and Maxwell.
Yeah.
Those dudes are not getting girls because they're light skinned. They're getting girls because they're attractive individuals.
That's
You
what
can
I'm
look
talking.
at those people are attractive by their feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I was just going on if people would take the route to try to
Denzel
look less
also
attractive,
on half the
they
time
did it without getting a fresh cut.
because he's feature attractive.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, we go ahead and start off the closing statements. I'd like to thank everybody that's tuning in, and have fun with the guys.
They got
Man.
really anticlimactic. You started whispering. You said, it sounds depressing right
It
now.
sounds loud
Come on,
in my
bring,
headphones. That's the crazy thing.
It sounds depressing.
Yeah.
let him do what he's supposed to do, man.
Okay. Well, yeah, y'all.
I wish y'all could hear what I'm hearing. Now it's hurting my ears
Thanks
because
y'all
y'all laughing.
for
Yeah,
coming on the show. All right, go ahead.
Bro, he's bringing the house lights down. All right.
There we go.
Ray
All right,
Charles,
so yeah,
vote him for that.
anyway, thank y'all for tuning in, man. Like I said before, man, critical thinking, great again, man. That's the best I can do right now, man. And that's good. Good. I'm doing good. I can't be great right now. That was good, right? Go ahead, Fresh.
Listen, man,
I got to study sleep to get a better outro. I got to study sleep.
terrible. We appreciate everyone who watched, who's gonna watch this, man. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, man. Like the video. I hope that this is a very good example of how we take everyday videos and things and attach logic and reason to it. So we're not always talking about highbrow, high level stuff. We definitely have fun all the time. So I'm glad everyone got to see that. Come hang out with us, man. Thanks out.
Yes, definitely come hang out with us. It's the Vulcan Soapbox. I was told by one of our audience members a couple weeks ago that we got to do a better job of communicating what the show is about on every show to some extent. So I'm gonna do that briefly here. Vulcan Soapbox, for those who may have seen Star Trek at some point, either the TV series or watched the more recent movies. If you've seen it, those things, I didn't watch it a whole lot, but but if you watch it every now and again over the course of the time that it's airing, you're going to see quite a bit of it. And I watched the movies; they're pretty good movies. And so, the second man in command was a guy named Spock. He was a Vulcan. He was half Vulcan, half human, actually. And then they show that they're a race of aliens who are really focused and devoted to logic and reason and critical thinking. And that's what they're well known for. They were not known for having the best personalities, the most robust or bombastic personalities. That was part of the struggle. A lot of us, even within the black community, but all communities, but the black community, if we have a certain allegiance to reason and logic at times, it could put us at odds with our group, with our fellow black people, but just because of the fact that it's not something that's as common. Being fun, being light, being intuitive, feeling the vibe is more of our culture's thing for the most part. And reason and logic can sometimes fly in the face of that. It takes us out of the vibe. It makes us put our critical thinking hat on and go, okay, well, let's focus more on what's being said. Let's get into the semantics of it. Let's get into the wordplay. What does that actually mean? I've been out with people and have people tell me, hey, can you stop killing the vibe? I've been called the guy who likes to look at books. I've had people ask me, can you just go a week without quoting any books, any statistics? That stuff's all happened to me. And Fresh has been told that he's white because he was reading books. I was there when it happened. Now The book he was reading was the book that all white folks read, but not playing. No, but I'm just joking. But it was a white person that told him that.
Yeah.
You know, and so my point is saying that those of you in the community out there who are intellectual, there's a vibrant intellectual community within the Black community and the broader communities too, in the white community, spanning that some of us who just enjoy breaking things down and understand things on a better level, a higher level, because it matters at times, and sometimes it's just fun for us. You know, I like word Sudoku. I like to extrapolate. I love Sherlock Holmes. We could name this show Sherlock Holmes if we wanted to. We thought about naming it the Nitpickers, because we do a fair bit of that. So many people out there that are communicating ideas and they're not thinking these things through. It's for the moment. It's good. I call it fast food intellectualism or fast food information and conversation. And some of us want something a little more something with some more sustenance and nourishment attached to it. Something that's more sustainable and scalable. And that's what this show attempts to do, on whether it's topics that are sociological, economical, political in nature, theological, or just things like sports and relationships. We believe that it's important to think about what you're saying. It's important to analyze and evaluate the different teachings that are out there, whether we're watching a Joe Budden podcast or Vlad, or listen to Dr. Jordan Peterson or Michael Eric Dyson. All of those people should have their day in your courtroom in your head. From a scriptural standpoint, in the book of Acts, the Bereans were called the most noblest of the Jews, because when Paul was preaching, they were searching to see if what he was saying was true. So I say all that to say, y'all, we appreciate the support you give us. We want to be on bigger platforms, support the show. We need to get fresher e-notes on the big platforms so they can wrestle and have their verbal jousting with some of the top people in the game. We're ready for it.
No,
You got to start.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to this.
Yeah. We ready for the big stage, man. I'm gonna be supporting those guys in the background, eating my popcorn. So it's the Vulcan Soapbox. Thanks for all your support. We out.